All right, guys, welcome back and welcome to the Season 2 recap. You can see the playoff bracket on the screen, and we're just going to jump right into things here and head to the divisional round. And on the AFC side, it took overtime, but the Browns took down the Titans 30-24. Then in the other AFC game, the 9-6-1 Jets go into Foxborough and upset the Patriots 37-25. Then on the NFC side, the Cowboys take down the Seahawks by a score of 35-21. And then wrapping up Wild Card Weekend, the Buccaneers prove that they're the kings of the South and are firing the cannons after a 31-20 win over the Saints. So in the divisional round, it'll be the Jets at the Bengals, and they played last year in the wild card round with the Bengals winning 19-14. Then the other AFC game will be the Browns at the Chiefs, and they played last year in the divisional round, and the Browns came away with a 35-32 win in that one. Then on the NFC side, it's the Cowboys heading to Chicago to take on the number 1 seed in the Bears, and then wrapping up the divisional round will be the 49ers hosting the NFC South champion Buccaneers. And with the magic of a screen swipe, it's into the conference championship round, and the Cincinnati Bengals take down the Jets 33-29, and they'll end up hosting the Chiefs, who get revenge and take down the defending AFC champions as they beat the Browns 28-23. Then on the NFC side, the number 1 seeded Bears win by a touchdown over the Cowboys 35-28, and they move on to the NFC championship and will host the 49ers, who pick up a 19-14 win to eliminate the Buccaneers. So the top 2 seeds on both sides meet in the conference championship, and the Super Bowl 55 matchup will be the Bengals from the AFC side as they absolutely demolish the Chiefs, winning 45-10, and will make their first Super Bowl appearance since 1988. And then on the NFC side, it's going to be the Chicago Bears, who take down the 49ers 30-23 in Chicago and will look to win their first Super Bowl since the infamous 85 Bears. But without further ado, the Season 2 Super Bowl 55 champions are the Cincinnati Bengals, winning 27-17. Andy Dalton goes 14-20 for 164 yards and a touchdown through the air, while Joe Mixon rushes for 89 yards and also scores on the ground. And the Bengals, who went to the AFC Championship in Season 1, start Season 2 12-0, finish 13-3, and through the glories of Madden simulation logic, have their first NFL championship in franchise history. We're now going to go around the league, starting with the end of the season leaders and starting with the passers, where Jacoby Brissett leads the league in passing yards with 4,592. Baker Mayfield leads the way in passing touchdowns with 42, and then Dak Prescott and his 124.2 passer rating finished atop the league. Moving to the rushing leaders, Todd Gurley takes the rushing title with 1,561 yards rushing and also leads the way with an even 6 yards per carry average. And then Saquon Barkley of the Giants finishes with a league best 15 rushing touchdowns. The receiving leaders start with Browns tight end David Njoku, who comes up 1 catch shy of triple digits, leading the way with 99 catches. Buccaneers receiver Mike Evans takes the receiving yards title with 1,302 yards through the air. And then Colts receiver Seth Roberts finishes atop the league with 14 touchdown catches. And then wrapping up here with the defensive leaders, our own Deion Jones leads with 179 tackles. The Broncos' Von Miller takes home the sack title with 17 sacks. And then the Bills cornerback Tre'Davious White was one among many to finish with a league best 5 interceptions in Season 2. Next up is the Pro Bowl roster, and I'm just going to scroll through this pretty quickly. We only had 4 Pro Bowlers this year after having 10 last season. Jordan Buggs, the rookie 7th rounder at fullback, makes the Pro Bowl in his first season. At linebacker, Deion Jones makes the Pro Bowl for the 2nd year in a row, and heading into next season, we'll see his dev go from superstar to superstar X Factor. And then sharpshooting rookie kicker Roland Ford also makes the Pro Bowl in his rookie season, giving us 2 Pro Bowlers from the Season 1 draft class. Then lastly was Devin Gray, who made the Pro Bowler as a returner despite only having 1 onside kick recovery for 0 yards and not a single punt return on the season, so I'm not exactly sure what happened there, but whoever ends up signing him as a free agent will have a couple of skill points to spend as a result. Next up, we're going to cover some NFL awards, starting with the league MVP, which was Bears quarterback Mitchell Trubisky. The 4th-year pro joins Patrick Mahomes as the 2nd MVP from the 2017 class and did so by throwing for over 4,200 yards and 36 passing touchdowns while adding another 6 scores on the ground. Trubisky led the Bears to a 13-3 season and the number 1 seed in the NFC, but as you saw earlier, came up short, losing in the Super Bowl. The Season 2 Coach of the Year goes to the Bengals' Zach Taylor. In just his 2nd season as the head coach, Taylor has taken the Bengals to 2 AFC championships and this year led them to a 13-3 record with top 10 units on both sides of the ball in a season that resulted resulted in the Bengals taking home the Lombardi Trophy for the first time in franchise history. Moving on to the year's top rookies, taking home the AFC Offensive Award was Dakota Trapp of the Raiders. The 5th overall pick out of Oregon State hauled in 62 catches for 855 yards and 5 touchdowns to become the first Raiders Offensive Rookie of the Year since Marcus Allen all the way back in 1982. On the NFC side, it was the first quarterback taken in last year's draft as Kevin Rose of the Giants takes it home. The 3rd overall pick in the 2nd round threw for 3,765 yards and had 24 touchdowns to 17 interceptions and led a struggling Giants squad to a 3-12-1 record in 2020. As for the defensive side, the AFC Rookie of the Year goes to another Dakota in Dakota Wells of the Jaguars. The 21st overall pick in the 2020 draft had 76 tackles with 2 going for loss and knocked away a pair of passes while picking off 2 others, and also had a blocked kick in his rookie campaign. Then on the NFC side, it's linebacker Dwayne McBath of the Eagles. The final pick of the 1st round came up 3 tackles shy of 100 with 12 going for a loss, and also had 2 sacks, 1 interception, and a forced and recovered fumble to become the first Eagles Defensive Rookie of the Year in franchise history. The end of 2020 saw the exit of several key players, starting with Super Bowl champion Mike Iupati. Kicker Adam Vinatieri also calls it quits for the Browns, and no team was hit harder by retirements than the Patriots, who have Tom Brady, Jason McCourty, Julian Edelman, and Patrick Chung all hang it up. Steelers quarterback Ben Roethlisberger calls it a career, as does Eric Weddle, along with Calais Campbell, Golden Tate, and Thomas Davis Sr. The end of 2020 also saw a bunch of coach firings, including our own Dan Quinn, who was let go. Along with him, Mike Zimmer, Thomas Pitta, Brian Flores, Ron Rivera, Mike Tomlin, and Demetrius Turner were all relieved of their duties. And then Chiefs head coach Andy Reid decided to hang up the headset and retire from coaching. So the reason why I decided to fire Quinn and search for a new head coach was mainly because of the disappointing season. We went 12-4 in season 1 and then came out flat in season 2. And when it came down to the home stretch after we got back to 500, things once again fell apart before ending the year strong. But with the rookie quarterback, I just wanted a new look moving forward and to kind of start things fresh as well. So allow me to introduce you to Mitchell Stanley, a man with 2 first names, a West Coast spread scheme on offense, and a 3-4 storm scheme on defense. And as you can see, even with the shift in offensive scheme, we're still pretty good on that side of the ball in terms of all-around scheme fits, which should make for a fairly smooth transition. However, on the defensive side of the ball, in going from a 4-3 scheme to a 3-4 scheme, it's a much different story, but a good part of this upcoming offseason will take aim at moving players around and getting more players to fit into that 3-4 scheme that we will be running. But getting into the other hirings, the Vikings hired Jose Flores, the Giants hired former Vikings head coach Mike Zimmer, Miami goes with Gary Pierre, while Carolina hires Thomas Pitta, who was with the Giants last season. Ron Rivera goes from the Panthers to the Raiders to become their 3rd head coach in 3 seasons. Mike Tomlin, after a season away in Oakland, returns to Pittsburgh, and our old friend Dan Quinn heads to Kansas City to replace the retired Andy Reid. But from the league side of things to our team, we're going to start with a look at the team stats on offense, which are much different than last year. We were 1st in points per game and total yards per game last season, but those dropped to 20th and 17th overall. I was also 3rd in both passing and rushing yards per game last season, and that drops to 21st in passing and tied for 13th in rushing. Then after 37 touchdown passes last year, I had just over half that this season, which was good for a tie of last in the league, but I do double the amount of rushing touchdowns I had last year, scoring 16 times on the ground as opposed to 8. And then despite the offensive drop-off, I was still 2nd in the league with 307 first downs after leading the way with 338 last season. And while the offense dropped off, the defense took a step forward, going from 18th in the league in opponents' points per game to tied for 14th. Yards per game also bumped up a bit, going from dead last in both total and passing yards to 21st and tied for 17th, while also going from 29th up to 22nd in rush yards per game. Then a year after leading the league in sacks, fumbles, and interceptions, the defense fell to tied for 13th, tied for last, and tied for 11th in those categories. And from team stats to individual stats, we start with our passing leaders, where Matt Ryan started the year and amassed 3,428 yards passing, but 16 touchdowns to 17 interceptions ultimately led to rookie Ray Gilbert taking over. And in his 4 starts, he went 2-2 with 970 yards passing and threw 3 touchdowns with 6 interceptions, but also scored twice on the ground. Ito Smith led the team in rushing with 794 yards rushing while reaching the end zone 3 times and was the number 1 back for most of the year after Devontae Freeman went down in week 6. Freeman did rush for 364 yards and 4 touchdowns and also had 202 yards receiving before going down with the injury. Brian Hill then became the secondary back and gained 268 yards and was tied with Freeman for the team lead in rushing touchdowns with 4. Then wrapping things up is the exterminator Jordan Buggs, who gained 128 yards and scored 1 touchdown on the ground this season. Kind of a similar story with the receiving leaders, as Calvin Ridley leads the way with 1,072 yards receiving and really stepped up after Julio Jones went down in week 12. Jones was on pace for another monster season but came up 24 yards shy of 1,000 yards and only ended up with 4 touchdown catches. Tight end Austin Hooper was also bitten by the injury bug and missed time but finished the year with 63 catches for 779 yards and 3 touchdowns after leading the league in receptions last year. And then Mohamed Sanu had to step into a starting role late in the year and finished with 44 catches for 492 yards and 3 touchdowns. Moving to the defensive leaders, Deion Jones was once again a tackle machine, racking up 179 tackles, 20 tackles for loss, 3 sacks, 1 interception, and 12 pass deflections. Defensive tackle Grady Jarrett made 11 tackles behind the line and had a team-high 7 sacks on the year. Safety Ricardo Allen was solid and had 113 tackles with 8 going for a loss and was tied for the team lead with 2 interceptions. And then wrapping up the defensive leaders is rookie Maurice Ramsey, who only had 38 tackles but 8 went for loss, and he also had 6 sacks and 2 interceptions in his rookie campaign. Lastly, for the individual stats, we have the special teams leaders, starting with Roland Ford, who was a perfect 73 of 73 on kicks this year, which included 40 of 40 on field goals. Rookie punter Connor Blumberg averaged 46.4 yards per punt with a 42.1 net and landed 20 kicks inside the 20. And then Marcus Green handled all returning duties this season and averaged 25.6 yards per kick return and 11.5 yards per punt return. And then to wrap up the season 2 recap, it's the top 10 plays and moments where number 10 goes all the way back to opening day. We're leading 10-7. Matt Ryan throws a screen out to Calvin Ridley, who puts a move on Casey Hayward and is up the sideline for a 72-yard touchdown as the Falcons kicked off the season with a 23-14 opening day win over the Chargers. At number 9, it's Matt Ryan dropping an absolute dime into Mohamed Sanu for a 12-yard score to give Atlanta a 17-3 first half lead in a game they would eventually choke away and lose 26-23 against Dallas. Number 8 takes us to Green Bay and one of the worst games of the year, but it wasn't without a spectacular 39-yard touchdown catch by Julio Jones for Atlanta's only touchdown in a 35-13 loss to the Packers. At number 7, it's both good and bad as the rookie Ray Gilbert fakes, rolls out, and takes himself into the end zone for a 5-yard score to give Atlanta a fourth quarter lead before unleashing some of the most terrible moves in the entire history of the art of dance. Then from terrible to essentially seductive at number 6, it's week 4 in Denver, where the rookie linebacker Maurice Ramsey picks off Teddy Bridgewater for his 2nd interception of the year and then celebrates by hypnotizing an entire stadium and TV audience via pelvic thrust. At number 5, it's back to week 7 against Dallas, where it's a group discount on getting mossed along with a country twang as y'all got mossed on the Julio Jones one-handed catch. At number 4, down 17-3 in Arizona, it's Ryan to Calvin Ridley on the crosser. He jukes Patrick Peterson out of his shoes and is up the sideline to get the Falcons right back into things with a 75-yard touchdown in a game where Atlanta would row their boat gently to a 23-17 loss. At number 3, it's the first of many as rookie Ray Gilbert hits Calvin Ridley on the slant, and he's off to the races for an 80-yard score and Ray Gilbert's first career touchdown pass in a primetime Week 14 loss to the Panthers on Monday night. Number 2 is the final hurrah from Matt Ryan, as in Week 8 he led the Falcons to a 41-16 win over the Lions, connecting with Julio Jones for touchdowns from 68 and 13 yards out. Ryan added 2 more 13-yard touchdowns to tight end Austin Hooper, and the icing on the cake was a 4-yard touchdown to running back Marcus Green to tie a career high with 5 touchdown passes in the Falcons' most lopsided win of the year. Then finally at number 1, it's the dawn of a new day as in front of a primetime audience, Ray Gilbert converts on 3rd down with a 6-yard pass to Devin Gray, then converts a 3rd and 15 with a 21-yard strike to Mohamed Sanu, and with 2 minutes to go, it's Ito Smith with carries of 12 yards, then 14 yards to set up the immaculate Roland Ford for a 39-yard game winner and a 23-20 upset of the Chiefs. But that's going to do it here, guys. I hope you enjoyed the Season 2 recap. If I missed anything that you think I should have covered or that you would have liked to see here, let me know, and I'll try to include that next time. Next up is going to be the free agency period, where I'll cover the offseason moves, free agency signings, as well as signings from around the league, and it's going to be a very interesting offseason with a lot of changes, so you're not going to want to miss